All right, what's going on, people? It's your boy Kingdom Coff Bizz. We're doing another week of this thing here. Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Listen, I just want to say over the last couple of weeks, since I've been, doing this thing again, I appreciate everybody for checking me out, and for everybody that will be checking me out today or in the future, please, like, share, comment, do it all. You know what I'm saying? This week I'll be heavily into, just talking about activism. Of course, as far as God dang, I'm ashing in the motherfucker. I don't care. I don't give a damn right now. But listen, right? So of course we know that this past Monday was MLK's birthday. Also, this past yesterday, was Inauguration Day, where we did bring in a new vice president who was the first person who's, number one, a woman, and also, a woman of color to actually hold the position down. So, that's always a lovely thing. That's always a beautiful thing. That's always a great thing. So I just felt like today that maybe, I should be discussing that at length. You know what I mean? So just to get into it, like I said, first I'm going to get into MLK's significance. What his significance is to me, what his significance should be among the masses, as well as, just in the black community. But I'm gonna say this, right? MLK's significance, he was polarizing. He was a lightning rod. He was somebody who definitely was a man of the people. And I know that, when some people talk about MLK, they talk about, how, he was cheating on his wife, or they were talking about, how, he was being nonviolent. He stood on that. And, everybody didn't agree with that. Some people, they wanted to go a different way with it. Of course, some people, they follow behind the NOIs and Nation of Islam. They follow behind the Black Panthers and things of that nature. So, of course, a lot of times, people, they talk about the negative. I really want to talk about today how his passing was, it was really the death of the last great black activist that touched everybody. And this is what I mean. Somebody like I said, as far as, Malcolm X goes, and the Nation of Islam, he could be pretty polarizing. You know what I mean? Tone was good, my bruh. He can be pretty polarizing, that by any means necessary tone. The fact that, they would defend, that they would defend themselves. All of that stuff, was pretty, it was something that made a lot of people uncomfortable. You know what I mean? As far as, the Black Panthers, same thing. They stood on the Second Amendment. They stood by, what some people would, people would criticize them because they actually followed a lot of communist principles. But what people don't realize is that it's not necessarily, the principle or the form of government or whatever that's the problem. It's what you do with it is the problem. And the Black Panthers, They weren't, how people think of Castro. They weren't how people think of Joseph Stalin. They weren't how people think of Mao Zedong. Because they didn't have, that they weren't a government entity. You know what I mean? They didn't, they didn't try to run a form of government. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not what they tried to do. What they tried to do was they tried to take the good of those principles and spread that amongst their people. That's what they did. Now, with Martin Luther King, like I said, he's somebody that even though he was polarizing, he did touch everybody because he wasn't ultra militant as far as just being ultra non as far as instantly going with the defending ourselves. He was the person that that they would hold the bus boycotts and it would get to the point and he would hold marches. Good looking out, Tone. And he would hold marches and things of that nature, and he would pretty much tell people, well, hey, when the police come, we're not fighting them back. We're gonna stand strong. We're gonna lock arms. These are the things that we're going to do. You know what I'm saying? And because of that, hey, what's going on, Dorian? And because of that, he was somebody that I would say was more palatable, to the masses. He was somebody that touched, black people, white people, all people of color, children. Because of course, a lot of people remember his, I Have a Dream speech, and they remember, the content of our character line with, like what we can see, heading, today, where, and I'm going to get into some of that, but of course, we had a black president in Barack Obama. Of course, he might be mixed, but he's black. We had a black president 12 years ago. Well, actually, yeah, I would say 12 years ago he entered office. And yesterday, Kamala Harris, she started, and she's a black vice president, and the fact that she's also a woman. No matter what you think about her policies, no matter what whether you like her policies or not, no matter what it is, he is somebody that is the reflection of Martin Luther King and people before him, where you wish that one day that you can actually have somebody of our color that can actually hold the most powerful office in the world, second most powerful office in the world. You know what I mean? And just from that alone, you can actually inspire children. There's going to be a lot of children, where they grew up in the places that we grew up in, and of course me, I came from the hood, and I'm still living in it, to this day, as a man in his mid-30s, and my man, and a lot of people that grow up where we grow up at, like when you see the drug infestation, and you see the young mothers and fathers running around, and you see the dirty project buildings and all that kind of stuff, you don't ever think that president or vice president would ever be in your walk of life. You don't even think that. So and that's why why a lot of people heavily criticize Obama. I'm talking about people in our race, where those people heavily criticized Obama, and why people been criticizing Kamala Harris because of her history as a prosecutor, and what her policies might be. They were doing that from the door. They were doing that before she got voted in, before she actually took office yesterday. Pretty much with that, it's a means of hope. It's a means to inspire. I don't give a fuck who you are, and you can argue me down if you want to, because I don't have no kids, but you do want to be able to raise your kid and not make them think that all they have to do is be a basketball player, be an athlete. There's nothing wrong with that, you know, because I mean, hey, I rap too. I'm gonna be putting out new music soon myself, but it's not like that's the only option. Like where we came up at and where we grew up at, you feel like the only option, you know what I'm saying, is to be a drug dealer, is to be a ball player, is to be a rapper. Some people they feel like that's all that they have to do. And me, I actually speak to the youngins, you know what I'm saying, that grew up in, you know, where I'm currently living at now, that have grown up where I grew up at, you know, that have grown up, you know, in many, you know, different, you know, cities and neighborhoods. You know what I mean? Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, so the thing about it is, Kamala Harris, I don't agree with a lot of things that she does. You know, with Barack Obama, I don't agree with a lot of the things that he did, but it's still, you know, it's still something great when when you actually see that can happen. You know, 50 and 60 years after, after King was marching on that. Well, I guess now be like, 60, 70 years. But that's his significance to me. That's overall, that's his ultimate significance. He really did, he really did march so people can run. I know that people have said that, and I mean that's saying it sounded a little corny. It sounded kind of corny, even me saying it. But but bottom line, at the end of the day, I mean that's big facts right there. You know what I mean? And he was the person that, see, back then you were getting locked up just if you protested. See nowadays, they try to use people that, where they try to they try to point out the people that riot and loot and all that kind of stuff, and they try to paint those pictures and paint those images and put those images in the news like those are all of the people that are protesting, like those are the only people that are representing our movements today, which is currently not true. That's a fallacy. That's fucking false. Back in the day when MLK and when Snick was doing it, and when SCLC was doing it, they were getting locked up just for protesting. Just not for going anywhere. You know what I'm saying? So all in all, that's, let's see, Malcolm fought, Martin walked. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right about Malcolm. You're right about Malcolm. Trust me, today we can talk about all. Like I said, I mainly just was focusing on MLK at this point, just because his birthday had just passed. Though, but you dead on. And of course, we got the Kwame Ture, we got the Marcus Garveys. We got the Huey News. We got many people that have been a part of this movement, even to this day, where unfortunately some people have had to be martyrs to really bring the current Black Lives Matter movement to light. You know what I mean? So yeah. So you're right. You dead on that. Oh, thanks, brother. So now I've used that, and I'm kind of segueing now into Kyrie and activism, right? Because currently there's a lot of people that took issue because Kyrie Irving, he just played his first game. I think they said that he was out for 7 games, for the Nets, and he finally came back yesterday to play. Him, KD, and my man. That's all. We gonna get there. We gonna get there. Trust me. It's not a. What we can rap on it, but it ain't. It ain't really a lot. Put in. Not saying that it's insignificant. The setup and everything, but it's. But getting to Kyrie, people were upset with him because he's been away from basketball, and he's been heavily entrenched in black activism, and he's been entrenched in also handling some personal things that he's not willing to discuss, and that's his business to keep that in. You know what I mean? But 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 people are currently asking the question whether somebody like a Kyrie Irving can be an activist and as well be a ball player. This is the one thing I will say. If you're a ball player, like if you're a pro ball player, if you're in the NBA, and in theory, you're getting paid to play 82 games, or just like this year is going to be a shortened season. It might even get shorter, if based on certain postponements of games and things of that nature. Because I think that they said that the schedule was 74 games when they started, and we'll see how this goes. As more players catch COVID, as long as they're not, in the bubble, and we'll see how they handle the protocols there. But people are looking at Kyrie Irving, and they're thinking that, well, hey, people are looking to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and people are looking to Jim Brown, and people are looking to Muhammad Ali. People are looking to these people, you know what I mean? And they're saying, well, hey, you can do both. The funny thing about, I'll say this about, all of that, right? I do remember, when Tommy Smith and John Carlos, when they got up in the '68 Olympics, and they, and they raised up the Black Power fist and all that, they were ridiculed. They were essentially blackballed, and they essentially, and nobody, like except for us black folk, when it comes to people in the Olympics, like they never get celebrated the same. They don't even get celebrated as much as other black athletes. They don't get celebrated as much as a Jesse Owens. They don't get celebrated as much as a Usain Bolt. They don't get they don't get that much love. I mean, with shit, Dominique Dawes is getting more love than them, as far as, black Olympians, because they raised that Black Power fist and they got, blackballed essentially. Colin Kaepernick did this thing, started kneeling, he got blackballed. Craig Hodges, who used to play with the Chicago Bulls, early in the Jordan era, when Jordan was winning championships, he started doing this thing, he got blackballed. Chris Jackson, the former Denver Nuggets point guard in the 80s and the 90s, became Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, and then he started, getting on this activism tip. You didn't really hear too much from him. Muhammad Ali went to jail for a few years because he refused to go into the draft. As far as the military, because of course at that time they were still, they were still doing, military drafts. And that was when, I believe that was when the Vietnam War was going on. I believe that that's the case. So I say that to say this, is that, yeah, can you do both? Yeah, of course you can do both. But of course, we have to be cognizant of the fact that when you try to do both, and trust me, there's more people. I'm just rattling off names and situations. That there's more of us. When we have done something activism wise, we don't get the same love. We don't get promoted the same. We don't get bigged up the same. You know what I mean? So can you do both? Yeah, of course. But I will say this much about Kyrie Irving. I will say that because of course Stephen A. Smith, and people were getting on Stephen A. Smith because he said this. But Stephen A. Smith said, well, hey, Kyrie, maybe Kyrie should retire if his heart isn't in the game. And people were killing him for that because, of course, people are thinking also that it might be some mental health things going on with Kyrie Irving. I mean, hey, whether it is like, outright mental health things or not, just being a black man in America, being a black woman in America, being a black kid in America, there's mental health issues that you go through. I'm going through them. I know that you're going through them, Tone, and anybody else is watching. I know that that's what goes on among us. You know what I mean? So I'm definitely not going to discount that shit at all. You feel me? So I will say this much though. He does have a point, because if Kyrie, getting on his political tip and him, Getting a crib for for George Floyd's family and things of that nature. If he's doing those things and he has to be away from the game, then people would think, well, hey, maybe activism is more important to you than basketball, because you even said yourself when you came back in your press conference, before you actually returned to playing games, you came back in the press conference and you said, well, hey, I was dealing with some things that's more important than bouncing a ball. So if there are things that you feel like is more important than basketball and you can't put your full heart into it, then of course it is a choice that you might have to make. If And I'm only saying that if your activism involves you actually missing games when somebody is playing you. I'm not, that's why I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there's validity to his point. I'm not saying that he's wrong. I'm not going to kill him, because I kind of agree with him at the end of the day. And honestly, because this is even like what I was saying, like with Colin Kaepernick. Like, if everybody knows that the NFL, and that's why I'm saying I ain't gonna be no hypocrite. Like, I already know what it is. I've known what the system of the NFL has been for ages. I know what it's about. I know that there is systematic racism directly related to the NFL, to even the NBA. At some point, just from having owners and players, just that dynamic itself, you know what I mean, has connotations to systematic racism. It's directly related. It's directly tied in. But because of the fact that we like these sports, we overlook those things and we watch these things. We enjoy these things. We engage with these things. So, because of that, I was just saying, like, with Kaepernick, like, I don't really know if, when he came back and when he, when he had that workout, I'm not. When he was talking about, well, yeah, y'all can't run from this, and y'all know, whatever. And of course, this is after he did the settlement and whatnot. The thing about it is that, Colin Kaepernick was telling us stuff that we already knew. We already knew that he was being blackballed and this, that, and the third. So I didn't really see the significance in him, actually doing a workout and nobody picking him up. I didn't really see what that done, because I already know what the game is. I already knew what it was about. You know what I mean? So yeah. But, unfortunately it is this way. But amongst us in these major pro sport leagues, hey, you might have to make a choice. And that's unfortunately because we're not the ones that are running these things. Unfortunately, there are owners, where they put up all the money, they buy the arenas, they make sure that there's, food in the concession stands, that there's merchandise in these stands. This is what they do. We don't have anything, black owned in that regard, other than like the big three that Ice Cube started. You know what I mean? So you might have to eventually make that decision. Now, I will say this much for Kyrie: if you make a decision and you say, well, and they say, well, hey, there's something wrong with you being an activist, and there's something wrong with you if you are indeed missing games to engage in your activism, and they say, well, you know what, we don't want to pay you, then you kind of got to go with that. You kind of got to. Because honestly, and of course, this isn't about me, counting somebody's pockets. And this isn't about me sitting there, talking about what somebody should do, especially when it comes to their money. I hate for me, as a broke black dude in America, trying to tell some rich people like what they have to do with their money. It's, whatever you decide to do is helpful, but just because of the fact that you're rich does not necessarily mean that you have to provide anything. We can look at you a certain way, But nothing at all should be a requirement because we don't know what people do, and it's not everybody's responsibility. Like some people, they're just not built for that. You know what I mean? Like a Tiger Woods, for instance. He's somebody where yeah, he was a biracial, black golfer. He broke barriers and things of that nature. But just because of the fact that he did that, and just because of the fact that he can swing a golf club, don't necessarily mean that he can be a good activist. We deal with that with these rappers on the daily. We deal with that with some of these actors on the daily. We deal with that with some of these reality TV stars. So I'm not going to be the person to really be casting, judgment on these people. You know what I mean? Whatever it is, Kyrie, if your activism is getting in the way of your ball playing, if your mental health is getting in the way of your ball playing, I say this: either way, you do what you need to do, and because of the fact that there's so many different people that have had to get away from truly engaging into this or that. I mean, hey man, those be the breaks. You know what I'm saying? Now, let me get into the next thing. Because, of course, I was talking about this, earlier in the show. And I was talking about, the significance of Kamala Harris being the vice president. And the fact that we have a woman of color to hold, the second most important seat in the White House. And the significance with that. Once again, and I'm going to get to this in my last topic that I'm going to be discussing. But I'll say this much when it comes to Kamala Harris. Congratulations to her. I'm always going to give somebody a chance. Her and Biden at least got 4 years to do some things. So let's see what the fuck that we can cook up. But I am so glad and I'm so happy that at least with Joe Biden, he might be a panderer. He might be a bullshit artist. He might have some people around him that that are putting him in the right direction as far as celebrating women, especially celebrating women of color, celebrating people of color. Surrounding himself with these people. You know what I mean? Of course, some people they didn't think that Kamala Harris should have been his VP candidate. Some people were thinking that if he's going to get a black woman, he should have got Stacey Abrams, who was somebody who was big in Georgia, who got held out of the Congress there a few years ago, and was somebody who was real big in spearheading Georgia to be one of the flip states for Georgia to actually flip some seats, not only for the electoral race and the presidential race, but also in Congress seats. You know what I mean? So of course, people would have thought her. Some people were even saying the mayor of Atlanta, I forget what her Keisha Lance Bottoms, I believe is the name. If that's not her name, somebody please correct me. But of course, that's off the dome. People were saying somebody like that. A lot of people were saying, well, it shouldn't be Kamala. And let's get something straight. And I'm not talking about the people that's really in the system that I know that's really in the system, that really had to suffer through things, that really had to go through that. I'm talking about these fake motherfuckers who who never was a victim of the system, who never had to deal with none of that, talking about how she was as a prosecutor, this and the third. Like, look, the one thing I know, I went to school and I studied political science, and then once I studied it and really got hit to the game, I wanted to be far away from it. I wanted to steer clear of it because it's politics as usual. It's in the name of it. You know what I mean? And definitely something that's politics as usual is the justice system. I mean, hell, it is one of the branches of government, judicial. So the justice system, whether it is judges, whether it is lawyers, paralegals, whoever it is, they gotta, it's gotta be some politics to the game. You know what I mean? When it comes to the justice system, it's gonna be some innocent people that's gonna be locked up. It's gonna be some guilty people that's gonna go free. You know what I mean? Like we currently got, Trump, where all of the dominoes were falling around him. People were getting indicted. People were getting locked up around him. But of course, nobody wanted to lock him up, and it was mainly because of the fact that he was the president, and they don't really want to do that while somebody's the president. They don't want to bring up like criminal charges and nothing like that against the president. And that's the reason why he was fighting so hard to try to get another term. But because he's scared that somebody's actually going to, prosecute him, and there's going to be, some trouble for him. But it's all politics. You know what I mean? Kamala Harris is somebody that when it comes to her being a prosecutor, hey, she might have made a couple of bad deals. I know of prosecutors and defense attorneys that have taken bad deals, that have acted against the interests of their clients. Whether it be a person, whether it be a state, whether it be a city, whether it be a country. Whoever the clients are, whether they're plaintiff or defendant, a bad deal is made on behalf of one of those parties, on one of those sides. So me, and this is coming from somebody where I'm no lawyer by any means, but I've served on a few juries and things of that nature. And every jury that I served in, it was a black plaintiff and a black defendant. One time even a murder trial where the victim was black and the accused was black. And there's politics to everything. You know what I mean? So I'm not gonna sit here and say just because of the fact that she's a prosecutor, whatever, that she's gonna have to do that. People are talking about, how she just seems fake and of course, the whole thing about her background and how much of her West Indian roots she really tries to claim, and also they're talking about her choice of husband and the fact that she didn't marry black and all this kind of look. At the end of the day, if somebody's being judged on being a vice president, she's been in there one day, so I can't judge shit about it. What I can do is that I can celebrate that. I have 2 nieces. I'm somebody. Ren was good. I'm somebody that, I want to have children in the future. My future child might be a girl. And let's not act like for a fucking second that I would not tell that young lady that she can really be whatever she wants to be, whoever she wants to be. Something like this is definitely a big symbol of that. So I'm not going to be that dude that's judging her, because see me, I'm the guy. I try to find good out of everything. My whole angry black male thing, that ended probably 10 years ago for me. I'm a happier dude now. You know what's funny about that? I am somebody's uncle. I got 2 nieces, dick. But once again, like this is something, to me, it's so big. It's something that should be celebrated, mainly because of the fact that, once again, the kids get to see this. I get tired of the kids looking up to reality stars. I get tired, like there are kids out there that look up to Kim Kardashian. There are kids out there that look up to Cardi B. There's kids out there that look up even fucking Johnny Blaze. I don't know. And once again, it's not about the fact that they're looking up to them. That's not the problem to me. The problem is when you look up to them because you think that there's nobody else to look up to. Because you feel like that there was nobody else that was great and that was also black that's in another form of work that's famous for doing something else other than them. Like me, when I went to elementary school, I remember my librarian, Miss Brookins, and Miss Brookins, she was this nigga here, and she was the like she was the Afrocentric librarian. Whenever I walked into the library, it'd be nothing but black books and African books on display. Talking about different African civilizations from back in the day. Talking about plenty prominent black people in history. It was so many people that I read from. So me, of course, even though I came up, 80s baby, raised in the 90s, I'm not thinking, of course, at that time, I'm not thinking, oh yeah, I can be Ice Cube. I'm thinking I can be Ben Carson. And even though, that nigga turned out to be a big Uncle Tom, the fact that he was the first, black heart surgeon, was big to me. Like that was something that held a lot more weight to me than a rapper. And I feel like that nowadays that a lot of them are following certain people just because of the fact that they don't really see enough images elsewhere. So Lord. You want one today, bro. But you know what I'm saying, like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? But once again, anytime that the youngsters can see those other things, just the significance of that alone is wonderful. I don't. I'm gonna be that guy, but when it comes to black people that's holding office, you can find good in everybody. Oh, yeah. Isn't there speculation that Carson's fabricated? There's speculation, right? There's speculation, and like I said, and I'm just making that point to just to just say that was bigger to me than that. You know what I mean? And that's what they should be thinking of. Because I was about to say that when it comes to black people that held office, I try to find the good in everybody. I mean, and maybe it's a bias because I'm black, but I don't give a fuck. But when it comes to other races, the people that hold offices, I mean, hey, they kind of get in the crossfire. You know what I'm saying? But me, I grew up in DC. I grew up in the 90s. I grew up when Marion Barry was my mayor, when he smoked crack, but he was the best damn mayor of Washington, DC. So with us, it's like, well, we don't give a fuck if you do crack, do your damn job. Now, see, other people will be focused on him smoking crack. We just focus on the fact that he was doing his job, and that he made summer work something where kids can work and they can get money as youngsters in the summer, and instead of them being on the block all day, or instead of them just being somewhere eating French fries from the carryout and drinking big hugs and eating hot sausages all day, that they can do something constructive with their time and make money while they're doing it. That was our focus. So when it comes to politicians, thank you. I was about to get to that. Yeah. But you hit that right on the nose. You hit that right on the nose, my brother. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So of course, see what I tell people all the time is that a president, a vice president, that's one office. The thing about it is that sometimes it's about how your Congress supports you. That's what it's about sometimes. So and then of course, yeah, and then of course they got to make deals with the devil. You know what I'm saying? Like yeah, that's what I was talking about as far as her being a prosecutor and people not liking her because she was a prosecutor. Just because of the fact that, hey, she might have locked up some some people that were innocent. She might have made deals for and this that and the third, where people were guilty, but it's putting them back on the streets or it's giving them a light sentence. Yeah, you got to make deals with the devil, whether you're a lawyer, whether you're a politician, whatever the case is, you got to make deals with the devil. So at the end of the day, I can't really judge it too much. Especially, I can't judge her as a vice president because she's been there for one day. But I enjoy what she's doing for people. I enjoy her, bigging up, who she, like who people can aspire to be. I'm gonna get into the last thing right now, which is just different forms of activism among blacks, and exactly like what people feel like are the best ways going about it. Me, I'm always gonna say that if you don't vote, and I'm not saying that you got to do all these things. I'm just naming something that you can do to contribute to the process. If you don't vote, if you don't protest, if you don't sit on juries, hell, if you don't become, a doctor, whatever it is, if you don't, oh yeah, all eyes on them. So we gonna see. But whatever it is, if you don't do anything to contribute to what's going on in the nation, I don't want to hear you talk about nothing about politics. I don't want to hear you talk negatively on nobody, because if you're not contributing to the process, I'm sorry, you don't have a fucking opinion. If you're not contributing to the process, especially if you're the type that pays taxes in this country, but you aren't contributing anything as far as being a juror, as far as voting, whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? Like for instance, right? Some people chose to not vote at all, just because of the fact that they didn't like the presidential candidates. They chose not to vote at all. I'm not talking about they went to the polls and they voted for, and they voted for, local officials, but they declined to vote for the president, or they wrote somebody in or something like that. I'm talking about people didn't come to the polls at all. People didn't even mail in the shit. They was mailing to everybody. They put voting blocks damn near every corner. Especially if you're living in the city, you can make it do what it do. You know what I'm saying? And if you fail to do that, I don't want to hear from you. I'll give you an example, right? Especially like when it comes to like us in DC, right? We actually had like a proposition, making it decriminalizing people using psychedelic drugs for for health purposes, and you're not necessarily having to be a business. Pretty much, decriminalizing that aspect, just like they decriminalize weed and things of that nature in this city. Now, but just because of the fact that it's either like a yes or a no thing, and yes means that I'm voting for it and I'm fully for it. I don't vote for nothing when I'm not 100% fully on board, and I'm not voting for that, so I didn't vote for that. I said no. I said no. But I looked at all the research I could look up. I thought about it as much as I could, and I wasn't sold on it, so I didn't vote for it. That doesn't mean that if, in the next year or two, that if it comes up on the ballot, that next time I might have more information on that. So then I would vote yes. Now, I mean, I believe that actually did get passed. But I'm just saying, like, for something like, let's say if I voted no on something and then it ended up, being no, it can end up on the ballot in the future, and I can change my mind. I can then get all the information that I need, where I can fully be sold on it, and I can say, well, hey, now I want to go for this. That does not happen if you don't go to the polls. That doesn't happen if you get an absentee ballot. That does not happen if you don't get a mail-in ballot. Those things don't happen if you're not a part of the process. You know what I mean? Like I said, I've served on juries before. Every jury that I served on was black plaintiff, black defense. Those who don't do politics need to get it together. They don't realize how much politics impacts their way. Like exactly. I mean, because honestly, because see me, I be feeling like a lot of those people be bullshitting that they're just too lazy and they don't want to do it. Like, you know, like I remember when I voted for the primaries. Now, when it came to me voting for the general election, I voted early. But for the primaries, I went on voting day, and there were actually people that were in the line waiting to vote, and some of these people, they were like, "Oh, this line's too long," and of course they did that because of COVID and things of that nature. They limited like the the voting locations in the city. You know, things were a little bit further out in this, that, and the third, and because of that, on voting day, it was more people in line. People that are like, "Man, I'm not waiting in this fucking line. I'm going home." That's what people were saying. Now, of course, in an area like DC, where we tend to vote where we tend to vote Democrat locally, but of course, it's still about voting for everybody. People were getting out of line. It's like you already there. And not only that, just like how you had early voting with the general election, you had early voting with the primaries. There's no excuse. There's no excuse for that shit at all. You know what I mean? Getting back to like me being a juror, in every case that I was a juror on, it was a black defendant. Every case. See, me, when it comes to somebody, now if somebody does something and you feel like they really didn't do it, and you want to run around with a free so-and-so t-shirt, I dig it. If you know somebody that did do something, and you running around with the free so-and-so t-shirt, then but you know that they did it, and you just say that because you like them, I'm on the fence with that. But if you got a chance to be one of the 12 jurors in a case, because especially like with me, like every juror I've been on, they always try to mix it up. You know what I mean? They get mostly white. They try to get the young black dude. They try to get the old black dude. They try to get the black dude that they feel like is going to be ignorant. Where I think that sometimes they pick me because they feel like I'm just going to be the ignorant, whatever, young black dude. They sprinkle some other, minorities in there. And that's why I was saying. That's why I was saying. Remember, that's why I was saying I was on the fence. That's why I was saying that I was on the fence with that, and I wasn't really trying to judge them too hard. Hey, Karen, I see you in the building. But in all of those cases, I felt like it was my civic duty to make sure that this young black dude, that this old black dude, whoever it was that was the defendant in the case, because it was all black dudes, it wasn't no women. I said to myself that the best way that I can contribute is that I can say that, well, hey, let me be a juror in this case. Let me hear out. Shields is good. I can be a juror. I can hear out all the facts. I can hear everything out. And I can say, okay, he's guilty. Or I can say, he's innocent. But either way, I can be fair. I don't know what the other jurors are going to do. I'm going to be fair. And I've been a juror on cases when people are like, they feel something for somebody emotionally, and they feel like, he seems like a nice dude. I don't think he did it. But did he have the murder weapon? Were the drugs on him? Like is that? That's what I'm judging it off of. That's what me being a juror. That's what I'm doing it off of. And if they did the crime, I say, hey, that motherfucker guilty. If they didn't do the crime, or I feel like it ain't enough where I feel like they are, then I'm going to say innocent. And that's how we're going to go. But it's going to be fair, and I'm going to be fair to my black people especially. I'm going to be fair to all people, but I'm going to be fair to my black people especially. And that's a way for me to contribute to the process. To me, that's my form of activism. My form of activism is being a juror. My form of activism is voting. My form of activism is, it is me protesting. Have I been protesting publicly during these COVID times? No, I have not. No, I have not. But I know that every march in the city I've been on, Million Man, Million Family, Million Dad, whatever it is, I've been there. I've been there marching. I've protested and I've walked in the streets with people. I've done that stuff. You know what I mean? I've been a part of all of that. Callous ass feet and all. I've done that. I've been there. You know what I'm saying? That's a part of me, contributing to it. But if you're somebody that is not willing to protest, if you're somebody that's not willing to vote, if you're somebody that's not willing to be a juror somewhere, especially if you are paying taxes to the U.S. and to your local government, to me, you're a fool. Ram said, oh yeah, how much change do you believe can happen if the government actually helps minority, poor communities, funding wise? Yeah, exactly. And educate, and that's another thing too. Shit, even a form of activism is seeing a youngin in your hood that don't really see much hope, that's kind of down on his luck a little bit or down on her luck, and you kind of school on to the game. You know what I mean? You talk to them, have a conversation, leave some jewels with them. You know what I mean? Fucking, y'all at the museum. You know what I'm saying? Look at exhibits, gain knowledge on it. African American Museum, do that. Shit, some motherfuckers actually want to just want to go to the Universal Circus, or they actually want to go, have a nice meal somewhere. You know what I mean? Because I be knowing the cats where, like I was saying earlier, they eat the damn fries from the carryout. You know what I'm saying? 5 wings, fried rice, hot sausages, Slim Jims, Annihilators, Mambas, drinking milk, whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? Some of them be thinking that that's what a good meal is. When you sharing a 5 wings and French fries meal among 3 of y'all. And that might be the only thing that you eat the entire day. Ut's getting all your money. Her's getting all your money. Y's getting all your money. Fucking what's that shit? Bonton getting all your money. You know what I mean? Shit, take a kid to a nice meal one time. You know what I mean? Something, make sure that they eating. Make sure that mama's straight. You know what I mean? Whatever it is, that could be a part of it. Because to me, activism is about contributing to make things better. That's it. Even if you were somebody who in the past you inflicted pain among your people, if you can atone in the future and pay it forward, then that's great. Malcolm X, best example of that. To a lot of folks, he was Detroit Red. Then he became Malcolm X. You know what I mean? So, like so it's like, it's so many different things. Minority-owned museums, not feeling going to museums. Yeah. No, I feel you. That's why, that's why I made it a point to mention, the African American Museum, but also, some other things as well. But yeah, I feel you. You know what I mean? But that's my thing. Like, I feel like that those are the things that we should be concentrating on if we're concentrating on any kind of activism. That's what it should be. And if you're not contributing to nobody, to nobody's betterment in your communities, Don't say nothing about Malcolm X. Don't say nothing about Martin Luther King. Don't say nothing about the Black Panthers. Don't say nothing about Kamala Harris, Obama. None of them motherfuckers. Don't say shit about nobody. I don't want to hear it. You can be talking, but that shit's going to go through one ear and out the motherfucking other. Because if you ain't contributing to shit, I don't want to hear you crying about nothing. Like you know who cries about stuff that they can and won't do nothing about? Babies. They do that. And then you as a parent tell that baby, stop crying before I give you something to cry about? That's what it's about to me. So, all in all, you know, and maybe for some, you know, I was a little bit too, you know, talking about activism, but fuck it, I don't give a shit. This is my platform. You ain't gotta watch it. A lot of people won't watch it. So the fuck what? We're here. You know what I mean? So that's gonna be it for the day. I'm gonna turn this motherfucker off and because I'm actually sacrificing watching the Bucks and my Lakers play. But I do this every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. That's what I do. On Facebook Live. Every Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. YouTube. That's what I do. On my platforms. Like, share, subscribe, comment, whatever the platform is. Whatever, you know, brings awareness to me, or whatever keeps, you know, me engaged with you, do that shit. Let's see, Rim says, yeah, you think you need a Native American music, Hispanic music? No, definitely. But anyway, I am going to call this a night. Those are my cue cards. And this is me saying peace. Minus the spirits.